It shows up. I didn't even know what I was opening because it was like this flat package. And I open it up and it is a t-shirt with the sweater printed on it. I was honestly in shock. This is a reputable social media platform. Those two things combined happening last year have created what I'm calling a trust crisis. We now don't feel like as a nation that we can look at our news media and be told the truth. We decided that we would give all of our data away, that we would give all of our entire 400,000 creators globally, give access to those, give access to the workflow tools, and we would do it all for free. Today, over 80% of direct-to-consumer brands are using creators in their marketing. If you want to do creator marketing, it's been actually quite a privilege because you need to make a lot of money to do it. Here's why. This is the year that everything changes from a direct-to-consumer brand perspective. There's a deep desire for human interaction and trust and relationship building online. It's actually something that was created and manufactured by social media initially when it launched, but they've totally stepped out of that lane. Welcome to More to Say. I'm Amber Venz, founder of LTK, the company that turned creator influence into a global economy. On this show, I sit down with the voices shaping what's next, from trailblazing creators and founders to media leaders and cultural catalysts. We talk candidly about building brands, making hard decisions, and staying relevant in a world that never stops moving. So if you want to understand where business, influence, and culture are going and how to lead the way, well, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back. Happy 2026. I hope that this year has been off to a really good start for each of you. I started the year actually with a little bit of downtime. So I was able to take off work for about a week. And I'll be honest, I was a total bed rotter. I think I got out maybe like 1 of 4 days out of the bed, out of the house. But that's exactly what I wanted to be doing. I hope that you guys had that as well, just to rest, reset, and come into this year in a really clear way. I was actually talking to someone in a retail store that was helping me, and I was asking them, what's your process for the new year? And he was like, actually on New Year's Day, I like to sit and just kind of like be calm and just be still and kind of think through my intentions for the year. And I really love that. And honestly, I took that into kind of a multi-day session, which is really unique for me, but I can highly advise it. I'm excited to start the year with this solo episode. I'm doing it a couple weeks into the year because I really wanted to just sit and process everything that happened last year and be able to think through, like, what are the important things to share with you right now that you need to know as you move into 2026, whether you are a business owner, whether you are, someone who's raising children, you're going to college right now. I think, what are the things that are going to impact your life this year? So today I'm going to be able to talk with you about, I think, 3 key themes that I'm personally seeing in the market, and then help you process, like, what do those actually mean for you and your business. Many of you participated in the QA, so I'm excited to kind of go through those questions and give some time at the end of the episode answering those. And I'll have a few actually fun guests joining me for this episode for a little bit more of a global perspective. So we'll get to all of that today. Last year, my solo episode was actually one of our top performing episodes, so I'm bringing it back this year to kick us off. I think the very first topic that we'll go through is really just, I think, what an unlock this year is going to be for independent brands. So to take us back for a second, I used to have a jewelry line. I think you guys know that. And I remember being so excited when I got into a multi-brand store, like when they bought my collection. I had one department store who bought 3 of everything in the entire collection, which was a huge order for me at the time. And I remember, I had very little money in my bank account. I was fresh out of college. I spent all of that money buying the inventory and then spent months, building out kind of these products, getting it all boxed, everything. Because, when you work with a retail department store, the box has to be a certain way, it has to be tagged a certain way, the jewelry has to be in certain bags a certain way. Like, there's so many specific details and guidelines you have to follow. Okay, so you go through all these processes, ship the boxes, and then the store is usually on some sort of like a payment term, right? And so it's, maybe it's net 90, maybe it's net 120. That means that for a really long time, you don't get paid. So you're out all the money in the beginning. It goes to the store, they pay you, and sometimes you're knocked down for discounting, or maybe you have a guaranteed spend where you actually have to spend to be at that department store. I'm bringing all of this to you because if you're in retail, you're like, yes, of course. But if you're not, just so you know how all that works, right? So that has been the game. If like you need to be in the multi-brands. Well, as I sit with you here today, Saks Neiman Marcus Corp, they have just filed bankruptcy. This is one of many bankruptcies that we've seen for multi-brands just in the last several months. And of course, over the last 2 years even, I can think of on a global scale, many of the major retailers who have gone through this process or had to go through bailouts. We're moving out of the reality of having to be in a multi-brand department store to have a brand. I know that will reduce a lot of heartache for our independent brands. Now there are so many wonderful platforms that you can leverage in order to like have your own direct-to-consumer business and grow that business. Of course, I saw many of those come online in 2021, but they've only really continued to grow in both, opportunity from the platforms like a Shopify, for example, that's making it really turnkey and easy to have wonderful tech that meets customer expectations. I think from a credit card processing and shipping perspective, all of that's actually really caught up in a really nice way to where it's pretty competitive across the board, whether you're direct to consumer or, you think about like the Amazon checkout process, how easy it is. Most of the direct to consumer sites that I'm working with now also have that really seamless process. So things have caught up. The playing field has leveled. And so now that we're not in an era where you need to be working through these department stores that really put a ton of pressure on your business, I think this is going to actually be a huge year for these brands because of the changes in creator marketing. Because of course, there was a huge expansion in this category for people selling things directly online that was built on the back of social media and the growth of social media. So think about it. You had like a free distribution point, or like a free marketing channel. Of course, cost of content, right? But you had these channels where you were able to kind of grow your business. And now social media has changed, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the next wave for these brands is really influencer marketing. So today, over 80% of direct-to-consumer brands are using creators in their marketing. On a broader scale, we've partnered with Northwestern and done studies and found that actually 97% of brands plan to increase their creator marketing budgets this year in 2026. And it's the number one place that they planned to expand their budgets. So across the board, this is something that we think is going to be a huge expansionary year in creator marketing. And like I said, a huge opportunity for brands. So here's what's been happening on the creator marketing side for these small brands. If you want to do creator marketing, it's been actually quite a privilege because you need to make a lot of money to do it. Here's why. You would need to buy a SaaS marketing platform for maybe discovering creators. You would need to use a SaaS platform for social listening. You would need a SaaS platform for gifting. You would need a SaaS platform for tracking. So as you're listening to me, I'm like, okay, that's 4. I can name you like 7 more. But let's say that brands on average have 3 of those. Each of those costs over $100,000 a year. And then you have to put operators behind them. So when I say that creator marketing has been a privilege, it has truly been a privilege. You need to have huge budgets in order to do it well. And it's the secret sauce. So what we at LTK have been doing and working on is amongst the backdrop of this industry that we help to pioneer and create, there's huge expectations on it. They're expecting, from a Goldman Sachs perspective, their research has come out and they're actually expecting this market to grow pretty tremendously to be a $500 billion industry by 2027. So as a leader in this space, I sit back and think, what is the unlock moment for creator marketing and for these brands to be able to deploy it in a way to where this industry grows? And what we've decided to do was actually build a brand new platform. So guys, all of 2025, we were sitting behind the scenes building a technology platform that had all of those tools that I just described. The gifting, the listing, the discovery, the messaging, all of that built into a single platform. And we decided that we would give all of our data away, that we would give all of our entire 400,000 creators globally, give access to those, give access to the workflow tools, and we would do it all for free. This is game changing. This actually is highly disruptive to a really actually large and established industry in the creator space because no longer do you have to pay for these tools. LTK has the best tools in the market and we have the largest single data set, which is what makes things powerful, right? Like if you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of these tools right now, you realize that the underlying data set is what makes those tools delightful to use and helpful in your regular life. So having access to the LTK platform that, has historically kind of been this black box for brands, but now to be able to actually use all of the tools, unlimited seats for free. So all of your teams and systems across marketing have total visibility to this, total ability to optimize. It's going to change everything. It is, I think, the unlock for brands this year to be able to find customers who genuinely love their product that they can retain, and to do it with spending way less money. You're no longer needing to spend to, license that SaaS platform. Instead, you can put those dollars directly into, for example, the gifting. Gifting is free on LTK. Put that directly into those, produce those products, get the products in the hands of people that you decide are best for your business. So to recap, for direct-to-consumer brands, this is your year. Like, this is when you get world-class enterprise level tools at your fingertips for free, and it will change your business. LTK, by the way, we earn when someone purchases something. So our alignment is to help you have the tools and the data to actually make decisions to ultimately grow your business. And when you grow your business, that's when we win. And that's what we're betting on. We are not charging for access. We're charging for success. And I think that it's exciting that all of our incentives can be aligned in that way. Head to our website if you want to check that out. Get on the waiting list. As a brand, we'll get you onboarded. I think that you will find this to be a super delightful experience, but this is the year that everything changes from a direct-to-consumer brand perspective. And by the way, I'm talking about direct-to-consumer, but I will note that some of the largest enterprise brands in the world are rotating their business into this free platform that we're using. So it's not just something that's like cute for small brands. It's like, no, actually, people who are operating on hundreds of millions of dollars marketing budgets are collapsing their business directly into this. So watch this space, watch the news. We have a lot of exclusive news coming out around this, but it's really game changing in the creator marketing space. And so if you have a brand, you're selling something online, I'm excited for you. 2026 is definitely going to be your breakout year. Okay, on to the next topic. I think what I saw last year were two things colliding that really changed the way that we follow the interest in people that we love. So here's what I'm talking about. Over the course of 2025, every social media platform moved to a purely algorithmic feed. So following someone is a signal. Liking something is a signal, sending something is a signal, commenting is a signal, searching is a signal. There's a bucket full of signals. Following is no longer the singular signal across social media platforms. You can think of the traditional historic social media platforms. So you have feeds that are being built for you. What that means practically is that you're seeing content that you are probably interested in, but you have no idea who the author is or who that creator is, and you might never come across or see them again. So that's a dynamic all its own, because you're getting interesting information, but there's no way to know who's telling you that information. Then you flip to the other side of like the layer of what's happened here. The platforms have been really loud about the use of AI, and AI is really interesting in this case because actually it came out as a consumer product first. So we all knew and had in our hands ChatGPT. I can tell it. I literally the other day, I took a picture of my coffee counter and I said, I got this new machine. Use only the tool, only what you see on my counter today, like things that I own, plus the new machine. Please style it for me and show me a picture. It immediately pops out a picture of a beautifully styled coffee bar of things that I own, and I arranged it in that way and went on. But I'm bringing that up because we are consumers who have experienced the magic of AI on our own. So we know how powerful it is. You have then these tech founders who are telling you that their entire platform is going to be AI content, that the ads are going to be AI, that they're so excited about how it's going to be the majority of what you see is going to be created by AI. I see as a tech bro how that is like super exciting, because that means that you are dependent on no one to make content. I get that that's the business model, but practically on the ground, we've done studies, again, partnering with Northwestern. What we found was that consumers' trust in creators this last year grew over 20%. Guys, what was the unlock? It was actually that people don't know who they're seeing, like what they're being fed, who's it's from, but they also, 87% of people say that they actually can't tell what's real. So those two things combined happening last year have created what I'm calling a trust crisis. we don't feel like as a nation that we can look at our news media and be told the truth. We don't believe that we can look at social media and be told the truth. And definitely you're no longer following humans really on these platforms. And so what you're seeing culturally is that we are being entertained on social media, sure. But also people who want to follow humans have gone elsewhere. And there's places that are specifically for humans and human content. I'll give you a couple examples of these. LinkedIn. If you want to follow humans and you care about their professional stories, you're going to LinkedIn. If you are part of a running club, you're probably on Strava. You're following the humans in your running club, your friends that are running, you're rooting them on, cheering them, tracking your runs, your workouts, that's happening there. If you want to follow humans and see their recommendations for things that are going to make your life better, regardless of what you're into, you're going to LTK. It's the only place, again, that you can get real human content and from people that you trust. And so that shift and that rotation of consumer time into these platforms that are human-led is a really big trend right now. It's a cultural phenomena, and there's a deep desire for human interaction and trust and relationship building online. It's actually something that was created and manufactured by social media initially when it launched, but they've totally stepped out of that lane. And so there's new opportunity for new platforms like the ones that I've described to actually own that human interaction. So on our part, from the LTK perspective, we have been helping our creators and our brands lean into what's human. I think one of the biggest examples that I'll point out before I move on to our third topic is really from the brand perspective. So brands have been on social media platforms. Of course, brands typically follow a consumer or a creator to platforms, right? Like they're the ones who kind of establish it, make it worthwhile, and then you see like more like businesses coming in behind. Well, this year we allowed brands to join LTK at the end of the year. So before you could not have a brand profile on the LTK social app. Now you can. We've had about 1,000 brands launch their brand profiles on the app. So this is everyone from big box like Target to global brands like Zara to Aloe to Dorsey, a great jewelry brand. It's brands of all sizes, of all topics. But what we're doing differently here is the brands actually are not allowed to make their own content. So they're going into the back end of LTK, they're seeing their dashboard, they're going to their content library, and they're actually just selecting the content that they want to have on their feed. So picture this. I, for example, am a new Aloe customer. I knew I was interested in the brand. I knew I'd seen some stuff that's cool, but I really need to see it like styled and put together. So I go to the Aloe brand page. I'm seeing the creators that they have regrammed, kind of like reposted that they love and they endorse, right? So I found some new people to follow, but then also it was like the best edit of their site, right? It's like stuff that's in stock. It's stuff that's styled well on people that the brand thinks are cool, and because I like the brand, it's there. That's one example. Another example was actually I was speaking with this woman and she was like, oh my gosh, it was awesome. I went to the Target feed and then it was like all the cutest Christmas stuff styled. She was like, oh my gosh, it was so much better than going to the site and then like going to the section of all the Christmas stuff and trying to like sort through and understand what's cool. She was like, it was just immediately visibly in front of my face right there. She was like, I actually felt like it's a really efficient way to shop. I'm telling you all of that because we're actually requiring these brands to rely on third-party endorsement, right? It needs to be a piece of content a creator has made about this brand from their perspective, so not the brand perspective. This is a whole new take on how social media works. And again, we're leaning into humans, human trust. It's not the perfectly curated feed. All the filters don't match. There's different types of people, but it's like the best edit from the brand. So I think leaning into your humanity, whether you are a brand, whether you're a creator, is going to be really, really important in 2026 to fully differentiate yourself from places that are low trust. I will leave you on this topic with a kind of a funny note. So I had been chased across a major social media platform with this sweater dress. And it was like around Halloween. And honestly, I don't typically like wear a costume to Halloween. I dress my kids up and then I stand at the door and I hand out candy. And, but this dress was like kind of this cool, like knitted skeleton, but it had like flowers and it was 3D and just kind of like chunky. I was like, you know what? It's a cute thing to like wear at the door. And I'd seen it so many times and it was kind of starting to get on my mind. And I love the beautiful colors. And when I clicked through, it was like $78. And I was like, you know what? It actually kind of surprised at the price because it looks like a nice quality piece, but who knows where it's coming from? Okay, I'm going to wear this for Halloween. This will be so cute at the door. It shows up and I didn't even know what I was opening because it was like this flat package. And I open it up and it is a t-shirt with the sweater printed on it. I was honestly in shock. This is a reputable social media platform. I have been served this ad so many times. You guys probably honestly have to. If you are on this platform searching for anything around Halloween, you've been served up this dress. This is, by the way, not the first time. I have several examples of things like this. So I thought I was in a high trust place. I thought that I had like researched enough of kind of what this thing was. And here I am now sitting with a t-shirt with a sweater printed on it. Got in touch with the brand, said, obviously I will want to return this. And they said, well, you can try, but it'll take a long time. It might not get to us. But if you keep it, we'll refund you 10 cents. I was like, what planet am I actually operating on? So anyway, I'm sharing that story. I'm sure you have your funny ones too about this type of stuff, but it's wild out there. So I can definitely recommend going in and looking at what creators are recommending because their reputation's on the line with this. And I think that that's, again, just another tailwind for what's happening in this space for brands, again, and creators, that it's really all about, for creators, it's about being the arbiters of trust. And for brands, it's harnessing that power as you fight for trust from consumers in an environment that's such low trust. Okay, third topic before we move on and end with our QA. So the third one is really around AI. I know that for many years now, we've seen this kind of popping up in the news, and I'm sure your companies are talking about it. Certainly at a public company perspective, they're constantly talking about it. We're hearing about it on the news a lot because, of course, it takes a lot of energy and then therefore money to kind of power what's happening in AI. So it's crossed your radar entirely. I want to clarify for you that I don't believe that AI is going to really truly replace human work. There are certain jobs that it can do, right? There's an element of like, oh yes, it can automate out. Oh, I'll give you a good example. It can automate all the messages from the LTK app to consumers. So all of my followers, like for example, when you save something in the app, the second that we see the price dropped, it's going to send you a notification. It's going to send you like a push message. It's going to go in your notification center. You might even get an email. That's actually all AI. That's fully automated. I have nothing to do with that. Thank the Lord. I don't have to manage that. It's not like making a newsletter or like doing some sort of post about, hey, this thing you guys all loved went on sale. Like, it's automated. That's wonderful. It actually allows me to focus on creating more and better content for you. What I'm describing is an efficiency in my business. So AI, I believe, it's a powerful tool that can get us to answers faster. It can start work for us. It can automate some things for us, can hopefully give you time back in your day. From an LTK perspective, I'm often asked like, well, how are you using AI? It has always been part of the plan from a data perspective. So we've understood for a long time that we sit on the largest single database of first-party data in the entire creator industry. It is cross-platform. You think about, okay, we have the consumer, the creator, the brand, and we understand all of the interactions. Most of those interactions actually sit on our owned and operated, but we're knowing everything about whether it's like the engagements, it's the retail sales data, it's the average order values, it's what percentage of customers are actually buying. All of this stuff is there, right? So if we can make that available then to our brands through our free platform, if we can make that available to our creators by automating out things for them, then that's how LTK can use AI to win. Internally, we have worked with many vendors. I'm actually here at our conference right now, our kickoff conference here in Fort Worth today. There's several of our AI vendors downstairs working with our team. We've had sessions on this. It's all about making you better at your job. And I truly do believe that if you're not finding ways, and from a workforce perspective, to apply it, then you will be falling behind. It will cost you more money and it will take you more time to do the things that you should otherwise, now be able to keep pace with the market and I guess really quote outsource to AI. If you're like, I don't care about that at all and I am not in the workforce, let me tell you how I'm bringing it into my home. So a couple ways. One, my kids were challenged to create like an economic project. And I wanted to first teach them about, and they have to sell things, and the person who sells the most things in class wins. So I wanted to teach them about like, it's not enough to just actually make a great product. You actually need to think about influencer marketing, like driving demand for that thing. How do you like gamify it? Maybe you make it a collector's item and you collect multiple pieces. How do you use the Labubu scenario where it's like, it's in a box, you don't know which one you're getting. And so that makes you want to buy multiple boxes. It's almost like the Willy Wonkification of it, right? You're like looking for the golden ticket. So teaching them a little bit about it's not enough just to have a great product. You have to drive demand to it. But then I was also, looking at, okay, well, they're going to need to have like their little booth needs to be set up and it needs to have marketing material. Well, it's 3 8-year-old little boys. Like what is that marketing going to look like? And so part of what I'm doing with them this weekend is actually meeting with them and teaching them how to prompt GPT to make the marketing materials. So I've done some sample prompts, shown them some sample like outputs, and it's honestly did great work. But I think of this like in their life, they're going to need to know how to write prompts, and prompt writing is like, it's a huge skill that you need to be very comfortable with. So perhaps this AI conversation actually lands you like in your home. I use it in my personal life. I can even plug in, like if I'm doing like a food log and I'm like, hey, what food groups am I missing? Or like, how am I doing? Or how would you assess this? Like, that's a great way you could use it. Practical things. Think of it as like a thought partner. If AI is new to you, I would just say download the free GPT app and just start asking it questions or like verifications. Use it kind of instead of how you would traditionally use search. It's going to get you to answers faster. I'm actually excited about what AI is going to be able to do both for our business and what's doing for me kind of personally, getting me to answers faster. Certainly there's a much larger conversation around how much it takes from our planet to be able to do things like this. I do think that there are ridiculous use cases that no one needs, and it costs our world way too much. But from a practical standpoint, this is something that's impacting business life, school life, home life, and it's a tool that you can use to absolutely help you. If you are a brand on LTK, we are, again, giving you access to all of that data. We also have AI tools built in. So if you're like, hey, I actually don't even know how to discover creators on this platform, we have Match AI. Just let it do the work for you. Find the creators for your project. It's already starting to take the work off the plate of our brands. Certainly, I gave you an example on the creator side. So a lot of cool stuff that you'll see coming out on the AI side from LTK this year, including a consumer AI product. So if you don't have the app yet, download the free LTK app, and you'll be amongst the first to get to have access to our consumer tool that allows you to get to recommendations faster through AI. Okay, I want to take a quick break. I'm going to be bringing in Elise. So Elise Tran is from Australia. She is one of our country leads there. I actually know Elise because she had this wonderful brand called The Daily Edited. I owned maybe all of their products, and Elise became a friend as, you know, I would go visit Australia and visit our brands there. And then now we're so grateful to have her as one of actually the leads in our Australian market. So one of the questions that came in from the QA was, what is your perspective on the social media ban under the age of 16 in Australia? So Elise is here opportunistically. I wanted to grab her and bring her into this conversation so you can hear firsthand exactly what's going down there, how people are responding, and what you should know about it. What is this ban and what's going on in Australia?
So basically on the 10th of December last year, a social media ban came in place for people under 16. So a new piece of legislation was put out banning basically kids from using the major social platforms, TikTok, Snap, YouTube, you name it. So what that meant is on that day I actually checked. I opened up TikTok and there was a push notification that said, are you over 16? I actually clicked no, obviously we won't go on the age thing, but basically it just took me through a flow to sort of authenticate my age. Now it's only been, I guess, like almost 30 days or just over 30 days since that ban came into effect. So it's really hard for us to sort of, you know, decide, has it been effective? Has it worked? Are children not using social media? But like my word on the street is like I have a few friends with children in that sort of tween age. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what they've said to me is, look, you know, Lila is probably still going to be TikToking or recording dances and uploading them somewhere. I can't really stop her from doing that, but this helps me with my conversation on educating my, you know, child on, you know, not the dangers of social media, but how to sort of moderate your content intake.
Mm-hmm. I think you had mentioned at one point that someone was like telling their child, this is illegal. Like, it's like their backstop of like.
Yes, at least you've got that now as a parent because you were like, get off social media and why. Yeah. So I think it does help parents. I mean, I don't have any children of that age, but like, I mean, what do you think as a parent, having a bit of ammunition behind you in how you educate or...
Yeah, it's a tough thing because our kids have wanted social media. I don't actually
Really?
think, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Birdie, my 10-year-old, she's like, she wants to work at LTK, which I'm on board
I
with.
love that. Love that.
She's like, but when can I start working? And I'm like, I don't know, I'll talk to legal.
What does she think, what does she think she wants to do on social media? Does she actually want to share content? Or...
She does.
Okay, cool.
We'll have to show you guys some clips.
Yeah,
because
amazing.
she took my phone one day and she actually recorded herself. So this was at the ranch. She found some of my Dior lip gloss. She found Cheez-Its. And there's three things. I've caught her doing reviews. And so she was like live taste testing and she was making all these faces. And it was actually quite hilarious to see her do it.
So do you think if there was a ban in place here and she had never seen someone do a review, what would her behavior even be like if she had,
And it's weird that she's seen it because I don't know where she's seen it because I don't give her my phone, right?
Right.
And
So where has she seen?
I think it's actually like on like the television set in the family room because, now they all come with like loaded all the apps. And
the YouTube Kids
app.
Yeah.
Yes. And so my only guess is that they're not even watching the YouTube Kids. They're watching like just YouTube on air. And so I think it's from that because she's also wanted to record dances and stuff and almost like more journal day in the life. And I don't know if she's like with an older cousin and she's seeing it or if she's like, but there's very limited opportunity. So I'm a little bit confused about how she got here.
And so then let's say she turns 16. I feel like that should be ages away. But
6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, Mom, I've got the Handle Birdie box.
Well, I actually...
How do you feel about that? Like, do you want her to be able to upload that content and interact? Like...
So I think by that point, social media, like I don't even think they'll call it social media anymore. I think like the platforms that we've been in that type of space will have gone so deep into being like an entertainment platform that's so professionalized and corporate that it's not where people are. And so I would be happy for her to have an LTK because I think it's a productive, positive place. And I think that there are great skills that she needs to learn. The reason I wouldn't let her have a YouTube right now is I actually don't think that she is emotionally ready for feedback.
Totally. Comment section.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think that she realizes like the risk that would put her at with her immediate peer group, but also who online wants to comment or not comment, or even from a viewership standpoint. Like she knows that views means something. And so if she sees that she posts a dance video and 2 people look at it, it's going to make her sad. And I really don't need that feedback loop in her life at all.
So that's like the content creation side of things. But then what do you think about children accessing content? And we work in marketing, right? So I think about this when the ban came in, I was like, what are those Shay Mitchell face masks? Like, how will children get that content? Not that they're, necessarily a project I'm working on, but when I think about brands and when I talk to them, they are thinking about the next generation of consumers. And, at the moment, obviously, the talk is how to acquire a Gen Z consumer, Gen Alpha, and so on. So if that tool is taken away from them, how do you think that kind of impacts marketing in any way?
It does seem like what you're describing is like they're getting to it anyway. They're like overwriting every system. I mean, it's funny. My daughter's like, can you look at the text message? Because she's like trying to get code. She's trying to get Roblox bucks or something. Yeah. She's trying to literally hack the system. I am fully convinced that because we don't let them buy digital goods or digital like currency. Love Bitcoin, not so much Robux. And so I think that she's paying a girl at school to get them for her and transfer them.
She's savvy. She's savvy.
I know, because she's like, oh, my friend, she just gives me Robux. And I'm like...
And you're like, for what?
Yeah, exactly for what? I did notice my curling iron's missing, and I'm pretty sure that's been traded for something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm tracking that down.
That's like the episode of Sex and the City where Lily, the daughter, sells her Dior outfits and Charlotte's like, you can't just sell this stuff to like, raise money for something else.
I fully told her, I was like, you need to track that down. Like whatever happened to my curling iron, please track that down.
God.
But also I am convinced that she's paying the girl to buy it and transfer it. So
I can't wait for this apology email from the other mum.
Oh my gosh. No, there's so much going on at this age group. But here's the other like layer. And I have talked about this before on the podcast. And the New York Times is actually the one that presented this idea. I just wholeheartedly agree with it. And it was talking about when you think about like the social strata that happens in culture, and how it was thought before of like, oh, we got to make sure that disadvantaged children are given equipment and that they're given screens because they're going to be disadvantaged versus a more affluent peer group. Mm-hmm. And what they've actually found is that disadvantaged children are spending a disproportional amount of time being entertained or babysat by devices, and that they actually will be less able to communicate in a real life scenario, which will actually be the deciding factor in their success. Like emotional intelligence will be more predictive of success than your access, right, to quote information.
Totally. Being able to get on a playing field and actually interact with the team versus consuming information and making fake like and subscribe videos.
Right.
Yeah, so this is probably a step in the right direction for all children.
Yes.
No matter which sort of class.
Someone asked, like, my perspective, like, should the US have it? Or, like, what do you think about it? And I will say, like, for me personally, I prefer freedom to rules. But that said, you're free to do lots of things in this life, almost anything in this life. And so if you're, at least in America, I'm speaking in our context, like, you're pretty much able to do whatever you want. But at the same time, like, you should make decisions that are right for you. And so I think from my perspective, I don't intend to give my children social media, hopefully ever. I hope by the time they're 16 that like it isn't what it is today. And I would let Birdie start creating on LTK because it's around passions. It's like whatever you're into. And so Baxter's into running. So he shares his running stuff, and it's a hobby and it's a passion. And so if she has those hobbies and passions in a certain, area, whether that's like cooking or otherwise, like certainly share them. And I think it's just a place that's engineered to be more of a positive environment to find people who like what you like. Right. But I don't think that a digital feedback loop is appropriate for this age of child. And I don't even know that's appropriate for me.
Agreed. Sometimes I'm like, why am I in this? I am, obviously this is our industry. Mm-hmm. This is where we work, and I scroll and I doom scroll. It's, to me, I'm like, part of my job, but like to what end, Yeah. So yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate your perspective.
Thanks.
I'm also going to bring in my friend Jasmine. So Jasmine is a longtime reporter, and she now is one of the co-founders of the Scalable media company and podcast. I've been on theirs. She's now coming on mine, kind of a fun turn of events. But Jasmine was just in Dubai at a creator summit there, and they have announced some news about how they will be treating creators in the creator industry. So I want to bring her on too for a little bit of perspective on that. So let me go grab Jasmine, and we'll be right back. Jasmine, I'm so glad that you are available and able to jump in. I woke up this morning, I read the Scalable newsletter, and the thing that stood out to me, because there was that like billion follower summit in Dubai, and I had thought about going and for many reasons couldn't. And I knew that you guys were going to be there. And it was talking about the news around, Dubai has actually been this place that has been really inviting of creators. And I think has even put some incentives maybe around getting creators to move there. And then in the newsletter, it said that they are now actually charging, what do they call it, an advertiser fee, or basically like requiring you to get a license to be a creator there. And so since you were on the ground, I wanted to hear from you, like, what is this news and what was the reaction on the ground, and how should we think about this news?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for reading Scalable. We really appreciate it. So basically what's happening is this. The deadline for influencers and creators in the UAE to obtain what's called an advertiser permit is coming up on January 31st. And they need that in order to earn money from sponsorships or accept gifts from brands. And this is following a new federal media law that was passed last year. And it comes on top of what is called a commercial license, which influencers and creators have needed in the UAE since about 2018. It can be quite costly. Some of the estimates that we saw showed that it could cost several $1,000s for individual influencers, but the advertiser permit fees are waived for the first 3 years for UAE residents and citizens. What was really interesting is that international creators will also need to obtain a visiting advertiser permit for the time that they will be in the country. And it's not just about the money, right? I mean, I think if you're earning good money as a creator, this might actually not seem like that much, but permit holders also have to comply with media content standards, and they may have to get approval from authorities before they publish an ad. And that could potentially change the way in which creators and influencers approach content creation, especially around sensitive issues like politics. And one of the reasons, the creator economy has gotten so big in regions like the Middle East is because the traditional media landscape is so heavily regulated. We know that they have very high rates of social media adoption. There are a lot of big creators that have come out of the region. But when we were talking to people on the ground at the 1 Billion Followers Summit, what really stood out to me is that most locals really just interpreted this as an influencer tax because the UAE, unlike the US, does not have an income tax.
That's what I thought was so striking was so many people love to live in the UAE. It's such a rich country. So they actually don't charge people taxes because they have so much natural energy that they're able to export, and they're a very wealthy place. And so I was like, is this about the money or is this about control? And it's interesting because it just seems at odds with trying to get creators to move into the region. But then at the same time, I think raising the bar of entry, I appreciate that there's a 3-year period to essentially grow your business before you start to having to pay into it. But it does feel like a limit to, let's call it, free speech from these creators or freedom to even earn. What were people saying on the ground there?
Yeah, well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think as an outsider looking in, it's really easy to think of these permits or fees as being restrictive, right? But again, most of the people on the ground really didn't take it as, seriously or as negatively as, an outsider or a foreigner might have. I do think, the UAE is a place where a lot of creators, a lot of tech platforms want to do business. There were so many of the big social media companies that were present at the summit. Mr. Beast was there as well. I think the money is really hard to turn down. There's also a massive audience that it really has a strong appetite for creator content. So, but yes, I do agree that there is somewhat of a juxtaposition seeing, the UAE and other countries in the region really spending a lot of money to attract these international and specifically US-based creators, while still, cracking down to some degree on local creators there.
Earlier in the podcast, I discussed really the loss of trust across social media platforms over the last year with the proliferation of both algorithmic feeds and then AI-driven content where 87% of consumers say that they cannot any longer tell what is real and what is fake. Do you feel like that this is helpful or hurtful in that fight, or is this related to that at all?
So I think one of the positives of, this advertiser permit is that it can help to start tracking how many creators there are actually within the country, right? And this is something that is really high on our wish list. And we want to know how many creators there are in the US, and the government can play a really strong role in that. I do also think that regulation can be important in being able to, delineate between what's real and what's not on social media. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a regulation expert. So it's not my place really to say whether this is the right move or not. But I do think it is an interesting approach that could potentially have a ripple effect on, other countries. The US is so far ahead of the game when compared to many other countries in terms of creator strategies, creator spending, also in terms of the number of creators. But regulation is one area where it really has lagged. Creators really aren't even a recognized labor class within the US. And there's a lot of opposition to regulation here. Look at the efforts to overturn or amend Section 230, for example. So I don't necessarily think that we're going to see similar moves here in the US, at least not anytime soon, but understanding what's happening in other parts of the world, especially in places like the Middle East, where, there is a lot of innovation happening, there is a booming creator economy is really important and to keep in mind.
It's interesting to me, the amount of investment that they're putting into this category and this industry specifically. And I do agree with you that regulation is really a sign of a maturing and real industry that has real staying power. So if anything, it signals the seriousness of this space and the importance of it to the future of the region.
Yeah, absolutely. It was such a huge sign of legitimacy, for example, when the Biden administration invited creators to the White House, just getting that recognition, even, as a first step, I think is really important to kind of giving, a sign of approval for the work that creators are doing.
Jasmine, thank you so much for making the time. We so appreciate your perspective. And guys, if you haven't already, go subscribe to the Scalable, both the podcast, the newsletter. It's wonderful, insightful. I'm big fans of Jasmine and Kaya, and they do great work. It's a great follow.
Thank you so much.
I'll add one thing to the social media conversation, which is I also don't want my kids to be performing life. I want them to be living life. And I don't want them to be thinking about how they're going to show or share something instead of just enjoying that thing. So I think that's another reason for kind of delaying. Let them work out their hobbies, let them work out their interests outside of, turning it into a part of their to-do list or a voice kind of in the back of their mind as they're choosing whether it's what they're going to wear or how excited they are about what they're doing. So, a lot of perspectives on this, but great question. I'm glad you guys asked. The questions for this are actually all over the map, and I'm just going to take them in the order that they were asked. I love this part of the session. Thank you guys for being here and being engaged and wanting to know more. One of the first ones that came through, how to learn how to dress for your body type, how to layer accessories. So for me, I think it's both identifying my assets and I'm going to call it my opportunity zones and dressing or not dressing them accordingly. So basically it's like leaning into what's working. I have the weirdest analogy here, but Billie Jean King had this amazing backhand and she was like a world-class athlete. And she talked about how she actually just continued to practice her backhand instead of trying to better the other side, because then she basically wasn't leaning into her strength and it was a winning strategy. And I think about every time I veer from what I know to be right for my body, it's a mistake. I'll give you an example. I last night wore this, it's a beautiful dress. It's like this black halter dress. I think my arms aren't my best asset. I try very hard, lifting weights, doing all kinds of stuff. It's just not working, but I'll keep trying. But I just feel better with them covered. I'm also always cold, so there's that. But last night I wore this like black halter dress and it was long and it was just wrong for all the wrong reasons. Like I should show leg, I should cover arm. And I just looked at the pictures and I was like, yep, this is not the look. I should never veer outside of it, like stick to what's working. But I think you probably personally know, like, what are the things about your shape that are like your best assets, and then just constantly reinforce that through clothes and don't be swayed by trends. Candidly, last night, the dress looked amazing on the person that I bought it from, but we have very different body types and I needed to take that into account and what I choose. So that'll be showing up on the Amber Venz Box closet sale on Instagram if anyone wants a one-time worn dress. But it's identifying your best assets, leaning into those and not being swayed by trends. As far as accessories, if you've been here, you've heard me talk about this. I have the Keynote app on my computer, and whenever I buy a belt, a shoe, a bag, I copy paste it into the Keynote. So I have it's almost like a visual spreadsheet of all my bags, all my shoes. And actually I should just show you guys so that you can see what I'm working with here. Okay. If you're watching this video, then you can see there's basically this overview and you can see here's all the browns, here's the tans, the whites, the browns. And then I have quite a bit of blacks actually. So that has its own slide. But here's what I do with these. I have a belt, a shoe, and a bag that all go together always. And so when I'm purchasing, I'm strategic to always buy that, because ultimately then your outfit becomes the canvas and then it's like an accessory set. It always just goes together and that you have the right pieces. I'm actually really big on matchy-matchy. I love it since my childhood. And so I lean into that. I also like my hardware to match. And so I'm sure to have for example, I wear brown a lot, but I have my brown bag with silver hardware and I have my brown bag with gold hardware. And I always like for those to match. I think it just looks cohesive and nice and put together. And then they always say, remove one piece of jewelry before you leave. And that is always sadly true. Okay, on to the next one. Let's see. Let's go to this one. Okay, interesting one. Your faith and if or how it shapes your business and home life. Okay, let me start out by saying, I think this question is, I'm going to describe it as you're asking about frameworks and how I'm employing those in my home. And I think on the faith question, I actually really think that I have friends that I've noticed lately, and maybe even me too, it can get over complicated and people can get really tied up in the details of this. For me, it's here's why and how the world was created. here is why and how to love your God and everyone else around you, including yourself. And then here's wisdom to make good choices. So for me, I'm like, it feels self-evident to me that God created the world. I can look at my hand and the veins inside of it and my children being born and all of these things. It's all very organized. It all makes total sense to me. So I'm like, okay, yes, believe in God. Okay, there's the Bible. Yes, okay, can believe in the Bible. I'm not going to go into that whole piece here. The reason that I'm giving you that background is that's then the framework for how I'm going to pull that through my life and for my family. So, we have practically, I think you're asking how does this carry through in my household? So basically our framework for what we believe is morally, ethically true and what we should be doing on earth. What we have started doing now that my oldest is 10, my youngest is 5. He's a little distracted during these conversations, I'll be honest, but it's for sure appropriate for my 10, 8, and 7-ish year old. So we created over the break a family mission and we defined values. So if you're a founder, you're like, oh my gosh, it's like starting a company. It is kind of like that actually. And I found that our home is increasingly working like a company as it becomes more and more complicated. So with the family mission and then our values, we've had our first family meeting. So we started setting aside from Saturday afternoon after sports, all the way through Sunday afternoon, those 24 hours are set aside just for our family to spend time together. And so we usually start with a family meeting and then we have a fun dinner. We like to watch movies together, whatever is happening, but we're low key, we're together all around the house. So the first meeting was introducing our mission and values to our kids and talking through them. By the way, you can plug those into ChatGPT, and I had it make endless worksheets. I was like, I need 5 worksheets, age appropriate for age. These are my kids, and it actually made Boots his own little color worksheet, and it made Birdie more of a fill in the blank worksheet. So that was a great use case as we're talking about use cases for AI in your life to get you there faster. And I think a lot of what we're doing is also engineering our lives to have more purposeful and not passive time together. So what I noticed was gosh, it's we're together, but I don't feel like I'm influencing my kids enough. And it's, we're in the same house, we're under the same roof, but I'm just not getting as much influence as I want. And so what I've started doing, and this doesn't work every day, but I've started doing a 5 o'clock dinner time for our family. And at 5 o'clock, whoever it is possible to be there is sitting around the table and we're talking about our day and it's screen free. It forces the kids to actually sit and eat instead of snacking all day. But it allows us to kind of process issues that are happening in the moment. For us, some of our values are certainly outward looking, how we are productive and constructive in the community. And so it's, some of that's even staying proximate to issues and then applying, helping the kids to think through with some wisdom to how we invest in the communities that we're interested in. So that's now where we started out with the first business meeting being mission and values and then some worksheets around it. And then we ask each kid hey, find one value. And then how are you going to live that out? It really is an ongoing business meeting. We then are now starting to layer in a little bit of okay, now what are you interested in? Or what have you noticed that could be better? How could we help? And teaching them to action that. And I think that then foundationally, they're school-age children. So they've been in one environment. They were now just moved into a new environment that's completely different. And there's, different perspectives, different households, a lot more than there were previously where we were. And so I try and teach them if you're asking how my faith pulls through this, it's really just that the point of view of us all being God's children and the approach when things go wrong or there's conflict with other people is more to approach it with empathy and love, rather than anger or lashing back out. So, there's someone bullying my daughter at school and saying these things to her. And I'm trying to teach them hey, something's gone wrong in this person's life. Or maybe their parents aren't teaching them, to love other people. I'm trying to help them to recognize what's the backdrop for what's happened in this person's life. It could be a bully. It could be, we're talking about homelessness or other things. And we try to unpack the deeper issues so that our family can all maintain respect for the person that's inside of there. So I think that as far as our faith pulls through, it's just saying the standard of they are God's child, just like you are God's child. And they have different circumstances and realities. And so we try to approach it from that way. So I hope that that's a helpful answer for you. I think anytime you can organize things, but you have to know foundationally, what is your source of truth? And then how do you build that out to be tangible in your life? Okay, related, as a working mom, what help do you have and what hack do you use to keep it all going? This is quite the week to ask me that because I would say it's a little bit of a mess. I am constantly asking other people how they are running their lives. People who maybe their life looks more like mine in the sense that like, two working parents, maybe multiple children, school-aged children, like what's happening where they're able to get stuff done. I can definitively say if you can bring in help, I think a housekeeper is like the number one hire. When people ask the people in a business, like, oh, what's your first hire? Like your first household hire, I would say needs to be a housekeeper, because the laundry, cleaning the house, it's candidly the best money spent. It can just take so much time and be so depleting after you've finished working, you've finished managing your children, their sports and their homework and everything else, to like also have to get to that. I think that the energy that you were basically buying back is just so worth it. And ultimately, my goal is that my house is like a spa. And so I'm like, how do I make this like I am experiencing a hospitality experience, right? Like I want my bed to be clean, but I don't want to spend 2 hours cleaning it. And so I think that that's, the first place. The second thing is just organization, like calendaring everything. I've said it before, like all of the things that are important to you to be at, calendaring those, thinking through the year, even from like a vacation perspective or an experience perspective. Like I know that every year we are going to the Nutcracker. I know where we are doing it. I know how closely I like it to fall to Christmas break. So like I am blocked off of work. I am no longer going to work that day. And I make sure that I'm like buying the ticket. Like it's those sorts of things that like, that's a core memory for a family. I want to be there. Or maybe there's things that your children are doing that you want to be there, or just things you want to do with your spouse. Calendar those as if they're a business meeting so that you can know that like it's on the books, it's going to happen. It's not like I hope it falls in my lap. Like there's a plan for it. Also just that helps in a household, like shared calendars. So we have a family calendar that's then shared out to each of our business calendars, where I can actually layer it on top and understand, even though I'm not the one taking to the practice or doing something, everyone has full visibility into where every human is and who's in charge of that thing. So we actually do like calendar invites to whoever the person is that's responsible for that specific activity. We talked about prioritizing the memories that you want to make. I talked about the Nutcracker or like skiing. I grew up skiing and I really want my kids to do that too. And so we have made it a point where every year, like it's on the calendar, we're doing it. And it's something that they now look forward to. It was really interesting over the break. As part of these business meetings, I asked the kids, what makes our family special, or like, what do you like about our family? There's other ways to ask it. You could say like, oh, when you have a family one day, like what do you want to make sure that like they do too? And the oldest kids talked about how they think our family's fun because we go and like have experiences. And so skiing is like their number one most important thing, which honestly made me feel very validated in this sort of like investment in what we're doing, that is a core memory from their childhood. So we're achieving that. Also very interesting over New Year's. So I was exhausted, like totally exhausted. And I mentioned the whole, like I bed rot for a week, and that was 100% the right call. You cannot shame me out of that decision. Part of what I did was ignore New Year's, because candidly, even though I have a box with all of the little disco balls and the New Year's hats and like all the stuff that I set out every year for this party, I was like, I actually don't want to get it out. And I also don't want to stay up late, and I don't want to put it away. And so we just didn't talk about it at our house. And so it just came and went. And then like a week or two later, but every year I do this for our family and like for our kids. A week later, Birdie was like, why did we not celebrate New Year's? And I thought that was really interesting. She was actually pretty sad about it. She was like, well, but we always do, like what? And it was both sad, but I was like, they are valuing these things that I'm doing for our family. So, sometimes you feel like you're putting this effort and you're like, who exactly is this for? But I think it is about intentionality and creating those experiences and those memories. A great tip that someone gave me one time was deprioritizing or saying no to the things that are, quote, for your kid, but not with your kid. So the example this mom gave is she was like, I could be the PTA president, but I'm also full-time working. And so what that means is I would incrementally be away from my children because that's not something I'm doing with them. But she was like, what I can do is like go to the school on their birthday and bring cupcakes and sit with them in the lunchroom. That would be an activity. Or maybe I'm volunteering on like field day and like we're doing that together. She's like, those are great uses because we're doing the thing together. But anything I'm doing like behind closed doors to, quote, like help my child doesn't fit my schedule right now. And I found that helpful for my particular situation. Let's see. Somebody asked about my resolutions. So I don't even know if I'd call them resolutions, or I guess it technically is. Like I'm reflecting back on what happened the year prior and then how I can make it a little bit better. I need to drink way more water. That's the story of my life. I don't know if you guys remember, a couple of years ago, I had like 4 Diet Dr. Peppers a day. We got off of that. Then I went through a hardcore Celsius phase. I have gotten off of that by switching to matcha. I also am like weaning myself from my Starbucks addiction. I'm actually like, I have this cool, I shared it with you guys on my LTK. So it's called an ice shaker, and it's like just, it's a tall mug. But what's cool about it is it has this screw in, like, I'm calling it a grill. That's not the right word, but it's like a thing underneath. So it has like the flip up kind of straw piece that you don't have to wash. It's just like a mouthpiece. Oh, it's a metal straw, which is also nice. I don't like the plastic ones. Anyway, I'm bringing that up because I actually have found that I'm putting creatine in my water, and they've found that it is helpful with just like memory, both long-term, short-term, people who are going through dementia, like actually like super increasing their creatine. And I'm also trying to work out more anyway, separate deal. But I mix it in this ice shaker cup, and that grill actually mixes in like all the powder and everything. So put my powder in there and shake it up, and I keep that at my desk. So I'm drinking way more water. I'm adding a workout a week daily. Guys, the arms are just like, I can't crack them. So we're gonna up these workouts. So just like one more. We have started the family dinner thing. So that was the 5 o'clock. Like every day we're gonna sit down. That's the goal. And then every year I try to make sure that I have I've gone somewhere that I've never been before. So this year, next week I'm going to Cornwall. So random, but Baxter is running a 50-mile race. So I'm not sure this is the perfect time of year to go to Cornwall, but I am going to it, and it'll be a new experience. But I always try to make sure within my year that we have a plan to go at least somewhere in the world that I've not been yet. And then I think no one asked, but this is my kind of departing thought. Thank you guys for being here. Someone asked me over the break, what is my information diet? And that really stuck with me, both because I've never heard that phrase before. But I started thinking about, wow, I actually am like pretty thoughtful about what I put in my body from a food perspective, from a health perspective when it comes to consumables. But I actually have never really thought about what my diet is of information. Like, what is it? How much is it? On what topic? For what purpose? And I found that to be very convicting. And I am attempting to be much more intentional this year about where I am going on my phone and why. If I'm seeking something, if I'm searching for something, if I am creating, those are all like, to me, like valid times to be spent on my phone. But like to just be downloaded a stream of information that I never asked for or didn't need as an entertainment source, I'm actively trying to remove that, which means that Baxter cannot reach me on DMs. And it's really frustrating because now I'm honestly not opening that app very much. And I'm not spending time there. So he'll have to start texting or yelling down the hallway at me. But anyway, I just think that that's an interesting thing to leave or to start the year with, is like just processing, what is my information diet? What am I putting into my body? Because both that context is the foundation for your creativity. I think the book, so I was just telling my team, like every January I've been reading this book. For some reason I pull it out in January. It's like, I think it's called The Creative Project. It's a book about creativity, and I think that's a nice way to start. I don't know. I have time beginning of the year, so I think it gets me rolling. But so I both love that book as an inspiration source, but it talks about all of the inputs in your life in your context are the baseline for your creativity. So if you've never been exposed to something, it can't be an input or like even a foil to help you build out whatever that creativity is. And so that's both the experiences you have, the places that you've been, the context that you're aware of, but it's also just the information that you're putting in your head every day. And so I'm not saying that like every minute, I'm definitely not saying that every minute needs to be productive and you should shift all of your intake to productivity. I'm just saying like, how much intake do you actually need? And are you aware? Because you would never just like sit for 7 hours and eat bagged chips, right? But that's like kind of what myself included on some days have done. And I think part of my resolution is just to be much more thoughtful about my information diet in 2026. So thank you guys for being here and for listening to this episode. We have more exciting episodes coming up this year. I've also already booked several of my guests, just people that I love and want to spend more time with. I hope you enjoyed today getting to hear from Elise and Jasmine and from their kind of global perspectives on what's happening in the world. As always, Guys, write in, comment. Please let me know what you want to hear about or what we should unpack. You can always find me on LinkedIn. Of course, please follow me on my LTK at Amber Venz Box. You can comment, join the conversation there. I have group chats. Leave me a note. We post all of these podcast clips on my LTK. And so if you want to go further, I actually get a little notification whenever someone comments there. And so I can dialogue with you there. But I so appreciate you guys, and I hope you found this helpful. Have a good afternoon.